Hello again, all. In my continuing reviews of 1970s Spanish horror films, we jump up a year from the last one to 1972, and one of my absolute favorites, which is The Blood Spattered Bride, written and directed by Vincente Aranda, another master of Spanish horror. This one stars the very beautiful British actress Alexandra Bastedo as the main character, Simon Andreu as her husband, Maribel Martin as his wife, and only a couple of incidental characters. Rosa Maria Rodriguez as Carol, a teenage girl, and Dean Selmer as a doctor, and Angel Lamberti as Carol's father, and Montserrat Julio as Carol's mother, who is also the caretaker of Simon Andreo's house, his estate, and also, I believe, a teacher. Um, the story is based on J.Sheridan Le Fanu 1872 uh, novella Carmilla, which is about a female vampire named Mircalla Karnstein, who uh, is very seductive and alluring. And um, this movie is, again, it's both frightening and erotic and very interesting, very well done, extremely well shot. The cinematography is just absolutely fantastic. I'll get to the cinematographer's name in a second here. Fernando Arribas, edited by Pablo Gonzalez de Delamo, and again, the editing is really tight and very good. The music by Antonio Perez Olea, um, and like I said, Spanish with English subtitles. Um, Though again, the story is fairly simple, and you can follow it without really needing the subtitles. Interesting because, of course, Alexandra Bastedo, the main character, is British. So I don't know why they needed a British actress to speak Spanish, but again, because it's a Spanish film, I guess. Um, it follows this married couple, Simone Andreu and Maribel Martin, and they're on their honeymoon, and her name is Susan, and at least his name is Dean, and Susan has a violent fantasy while she's still dressed in her wedding dress in her room. They haven't had the wedding night yet. She has a fantasy of a strange man leaping out of her closet and raping her. And then the husband returns, and she insists on leaving like right now. And he says, okay. And they go to his family home, which is very elaborate. And the wife thinks that there's a woman watching her from the woods, but doesn't tell the husband about this. And then she notices in the house that there are paintings of all of her husband's male ancestors, but none of their wives. And she's told by the servant's daughter, this Carol character, that all the wives' portraits are in the basement. And she's curious, so she goes down to the basement to look at the portrait and sees that one of them has its face cut out. And she says, "Who is that?" She said, "Oh, that's Mircalla Karnstein, one of the ancestors who allegedly murdered her wife, her husband, on her wedding night because he made her do quote unquote unspeakable acts." And so her face was erased. An interesting thing about the portrait, which begins to haunt Susan, is that Mircalla is wearing a ring on each of her fingers, but they're more on the inside, and that's kind of an interesting thing that comes up later. Susan starts to have violent dreams involving this woman she's seeing, where they're like killing people and stabbing people. Then she and drinking their blood, and she finds a dagger, an ancient dagger, under her pillow. Doesn't know how it got there. Insists that it be taken away by the servant and hidden somewhere. No matter where it's hidden, it keeps coming back. And then she starts becoming kind of distant to her husband. She won't sleep with him. Says something about she doesn't like having sex with him, and doesn't find it satisfying. And he calls a doctor. He thinks there's something wrong with her because she keeps having these visions of this character Mircalla. Uh, and she's persuading her to use the dagger to kill her husband. And um, she has like these really violent visions of that, and then she keeps hiding this dagger, and it keeps showing back up again, no matter where it's hidden. At one point, Carol's mother says that she's been doing it and accuses her of it, and she says, "No, I didn't," and she's actually telling the truth, but the mother doesn't believe her and thinks she hid it in a clock. And she says, I don't know what's in there. And it turns out the dagger is in there. So she thinks the girl's lying and punishes her. But the husband is now very distraught. He's just strolling along a beach, and this is one of the most bizarre scenes I've ever seen. He discovers a naked woman. The only thing that he can see are her breasts, which are sticking out above a sand dune, and her face, which is covered by a snorkel and not a scuba diving, but a snorkeling mask. And he digs her out, and she's very disoriented, apparently. He offers her his robe and takes her back home. And this, it turns out, is in fact Carmilla, the vampire from the painting. And Carol shows Susan a picture of the face that was cut out of the portrait, and it's the same. It's the same person. She has the rings also, and at one point Susan asks her, "Why do you wear your rings backwards? Why are they facing inside?" She says, "When I close my hands, I like to feel something in them." I thought that was kind of an interesting. That's not from the book. It's just something that Aranda added, which I thought is rather creative and good. I liked that about it. Um, Once the husband sees the portrait of Mircalla with the same face as the woman he found on the beach, he realizes that he's in danger, that she's a murderer, and is trying to get his wife away from her. They start to have a lesbian love affair and make love several times, and uh, they kill the doctor. They kill one of the servants on the estate, and uh, the servant's daughter reveals that she's been bitten by Mircalla as well. She's got the twin bite marks on her neck. So now she's enthralled to Mircalla as well as Susan. And then the they're trying to attempt to kill the husband, but the daylight breaks in, and they have to go back to their coffins. And he finds where they are, and he kills them. Which, interestingly enough, he shoots them, and that's not a way traditionally of killing a vampire in, say, Dracula. But again, this book was written actually 20 years before Dracula, so the method, seems like it's viable. He doesn't need silver bullets or anything. He just shoots them, and then he shoots them while they're in their coffins. And then Carol comes in and kneels down. He shoots her in the head, and the last thing you see is a spinning newspaper headline that says, "Man cuts hearts out of three women," suggesting that the husband has been arrested for these murders and thrown in jail. Very well done, very well shot, very intriguing and interesting vampire movie, which is a unique take on Carmilla, which of course founds the basis of my favorite Hammer movie as well, the Vampire Lovers. Again, The Blood Spattered Bride, 1972. Again, highly recommended.